How may I help you, my friend? What's made you want to book the call?
Well, I guess from my point of view, I've probably, I've kind of seen your social posts and stuff like that, and I kind of feel like it's very kind of not straightforward, but the way you
Oh,
kind of deliver it, the way you kind of just use text on the Instagram posts and stuff like
mm-hmm.
that, it's very kind of easy to digest. It doesn't feel like there's a big sales pull,
Sure.
and I've started looking at property as a possible kind of career path.
Sure.
And I guess I'm just exploring it at the moment to a certain extent, but like
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of keen to get out of what I'm kind of doing currently,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and looking at this as a perhaps an alternative.
Mm-hmm. What are you doing currently?
So kind of I've been a operations and resource director at
Mm-hmm.
lots of different agencies in London and
Mm-hmm.
outside of London. I've worked for the likes of Apple and
Mm-hmm.
but I've found over the last kind of couple of years the shelf life of the role probably has about 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 years, 2 or 3 years. So
Mm-hmm.
it becomes you kind of make efficiencies, you do operational side of things, you make
Mm-hmm.
efficiency, make things work better, and then they're suddenly like, well, now we're paying him X, we could probably get someone in cheaper to do that, and
Yeah.
there's lots more automation with the creative industry as such at the moment. With AI coming in, with
Mm-hmm.
copywriting, design, Canva, all of
Yeah.
those things,
Yeah.
lots of people are being made redundant. And I was made redundant in the back end of November.
Sure.
So, yeah, I guess it's made me rethink where I'm going. Do I want to get back on a train, go back into London? Everybody's
Mm-hmm.
asked. I was working in Brighton 1 day a week,
Sure.
London 1 day a week, which was quite nice. It was only a little drive.
Yeah.
Um, and now the general premises is 3 days a week in the office, 4 days a week in the office, 5 days in a week in the office. And I'm kind of got a young family, and I'm kind of
Sure.
thinking I need to be doing this.
Yeah.
Um, I would like to work for myself. I've worked for other people for 30 years. I've
Mm-hmm.
done all right in my career, but
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of, I'm at a point where I'm kind of like, I'd like to try something on my own, but it's
Yeah.
just trying to find that avenue and that edge, and just trying to get a bit of knowledge. Really, I
Sure.
kind of I've joined. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling on a bit, but
No, I'm listening. It's good. It's good. I'm getting to know you. It's good. Keep going.
I've joined a property seminar by Touchstone Properties because they were the first ones. You're probably aware of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a seminar in back end of December,
Yep.
like it was the 20th of December. I done a 2 day seminar, and it was quite a hard sell. Like to join the academy, 15 grand, and I was like, I'm not. I mean, this is the first. This is the first I've kind of like talked about property as a career. I'm not going to jump in and spend 15 grand on a year's course, not a year's course, but guidance and so forth. It sounded
Mm-hmm.
like really good, and they pumped you up, and you really kind of wanted to get involved.
Yeah.
But I guess the 15 grand price tag put me off a little bit, if I'm honest.
I mean,
Because
yeah.
15 grand, if I kind of could work things out for myself, I'm quite technically savvy with being operations and running
Yeah.
agencies. I kind of think I can work things out for myself, but I guess I need a bit of guidance. Like
Yeah.
with these things, you're sitting in front of a computer on a day-to-day basis, and it's like, well, where do I go with this? I'll Google something, I'll read one thing, I'll Google something, the same thing, and I'll read something else, and it's like
Yeah.
it's quite hard. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure you've started your own business as successful, and I suppose it's a bit of a minefield when you start out.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very difficult in the beginning, and there are so many different um, routes you could go down. You look on the internet, all of a sudden you want to go with this guy, that guy. It can be overwhelming at times. This person's saying that thing, another person's saying that thing. I think if you can find someone that you get on with, that you can have a bit of a synergy with, and that you relate to their content, then maybe like just sticking with them and learning with that one person.
You can go off in all kind of directions. I suddenly start
Oh,
looking at Amazon drop shipping, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to make money here. It's like, oh,
yeah,
just focused, But I
yeah.
kind of think, for me, I need to create a passive income. So I'm not really like you say on all your advertisements, or not advertisements, your marketing. Like
Hmm.
I need to create a passive income.
Hmm.
I'm 48 years old. I've got a young family.
Hmm.
My wife works. I've done all right salary wise. I've got kind
Hmm.
of a bit of money in the bank,
Yeah.
and I just kind of need to work out where I'm going,
Yeah,
essentially.
no, that makes perfect sense. I mean, from what you've said there, it makes perfect sense. A lot of people who've come to us in the past have been in a similar position to yourself, tired of sort of the corporate, that going on, the rat race, so to speak, wanting to build their own thing and being interested in property. It would make sense to choose something you actually are interested in and something you actually like and kind of understand to a certain extent. That's why I chose it, because doesn't seem like you have to be a genius to work it out. I haven't got any huge qualifications or anything like that
No.
to fall back on. So for me, it was like, okay, I kind of understand it. I know that we all need property.
Yeah.
Tenants need property. If I can get myself in a position where I can either control some properties and then hopefully own some in the future, then that seems like a good position to be in. And that's where I was in the beginning. I didn't know anything, literally nothing at all.
Yeah.
So many people come to us in your position. So I mean, that's a good thing. It's very normal to be in that situation, but it's good that you've recognized that maybe from, like you mentioned, being made redundant. You start to think, well, how safe is a job and how secure is that? And if you've done it for a certain amount of time, maybe it is time to have a change. And only you know that. Only you can feel that
And,
within
and
you.
and with technology coming in the way it is at the moment, I guess everyone's looking over their shoulder a little bit. It's
Of
five,
course.
where am I going to be in 5 years? I'm going to be 40, 53, and like got no passive income. And if this kind of continues, like the trend where I've been made redundant twice in the last kind of 5, 6 years,
Yeah.
I don't want to be at 55 because it's going to get harder and harder for me to kind of get a role.
Yeah, for
Anyway,
sure.
that's kind of it. And I've worked in property before. I've worked for Knight Frank as run an agency in Knight Frank.
Good.
I've got lots of connections in the property industry.
Yeah.
I've always been. My dad was a property developer and builder.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
I lost him last year, unfortunately.
Sorry to hear that.
But I've got construction connections in London. Guy owns a massive firm in London who kind of like does construction. They've sponsored, like semi-sponsored Tottenham Hotspur, so he's kind of quite well off and done
Sure.
really well there. I've got surveyors that are kind of friends.
Sure.
There's a letting agent who lives next door to me.
Mm-hmm.
Our best mate works in commercial property, like big time in like for JLL and stuff like that, and he now
Okay.
starting his own agency. So,
Yep.
so I've kind of like from where I was in December, I've started my own property company. I've
Mm-hmm.
kind of registered, like kind of started my own limited property company.
Sure.
I've got a conversation with the pension company I've got because I've got a kind of bit in a pension
Mm-hmm.
where I'm looking at a SIP and a SAS pension, transferring it into a SIP and a SAS because
Yep.
there's some potential to kind of invest in property. I'm hearing it's only commercial property.
Commercial is where you get the benefits from it. Yeah. Residential, I don't think it works out for that.
Yeah, so I'm just going to investigate it just to kind of see where I am because I've got
Absolutely.
money tied up
Absolutely.
in pension. If it means it doesn't come out of my savings and comes out of a pension that's not really, like kind of earning me, it's only earning me £1,000 a month or where
Yeah.
£1,000 a year, 2 grand a year, I could
Yeah.
probably earn in 2 months. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, like I've had customers that have come to us before, clients in the past that we teach buy to let as well, and they've had money in pensions and SIPs and things like that, and they've looked at the returns they're getting from them versus
yeah.
if they were to buy a buy to let, and it's just incomparable.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, I've had a pension with a company I was before, like for 3 years, and I've got like 20 grand sitting in there. So it's kind of like I've got another personal pension which has got
yeah,
more in it, but
yeah,
the 20 grand, I'm making £1,000 a year on. So
yeah.
it's like
Whereas you could buy where I buy properties down in Wales, for example. You could find an
yeah,
£80,000 house, put 20 grand in. We've had double digit appreciation over the last sort of 2 3 years. 30% over the last 3 years is what we've had. Obviously it's not always like that, obviously because of COVID it was a lot more, but average 5 6% a year. And
yeah,
you could also get 10% from the rental income as well. So if you put 20 grand down, you should be getting at
yeah.
least 250 a month back.
And I guess that's what I wanted to talk to you about because obviously you've done HMOs, rent to rent, haven't you? And
Yeah,
kind of just normal rents. I
yeah.
mean, yeah. I'm sorry, and I've also got a family member who's got 4 properties in East London, and
Hmm.
they want to get rid of them because they didn't put them in a company name, they put them in a personal name,
Right.
and now they're getting clobbered for everything. Like where they
Yeah,
used to be able to take
yeah.
profit from them in total. I think now the mortgage they have to pay like whatever the mortgage is, they have to
There's
pay the
no
full.
there's no interest. You can't offset the mortgage as
Yeah,
an
that's
expense
right. Yeah,
or a
yeah.
tax
Whereas if
deductible
you put it in
expense.
if you put it in a company name, you can't you?
Yeah, yeah. So it sounds like you've got some good connections there. It sounds like there's some people in your network. I mean, the first thing we get people to do when they build the rent to rent business is explore their immediate network. That's like sometimes it can be right under your nose. There can be people who are looking for a fixed guaranteed rent. They don't want to manage their own properties anymore. They're fed up with estate agents. And if you have some of those people in your network already, then that's already, a really good sign. You mentioned people that work for Knight Frank and people like that. These are all great options for you to explore because you are going to need to network with estate agents, landlords. You are going to need to call around and even go into some estate agents to have a chat and
Yeah.
offer your services that way as well and tell them how you can add value to them. And these are all things you can learn along the way. But I think if we just focus solely on more to the rent to rent for now, and then, if you ever did need more buy to let coaching in the future, then I'd be happily help you with that as well. Like you could speak to my team, you could deal with my mortgage broker, and we could look at, helping you out and mentoring you with the buy to let stuff. But I think in terms of making money initially, more immediately, in terms of passive income, semi-passive income, because you are still running a business in terms of rent to rent. I think we should focus more on that because that's obviously going to be what's going to get you out of your situation quicker. Because obviously buy to let is more capital up front,
Yeah.
and it's less in terms of income. £300 a month, still fantastic, but it's more for the long term play of the
Yeah.
appreciation. So rent to rent is more of the vehicle that's going to
Yeah.
replace your income, so to speak, and allow you to be that entrepreneur that it sounds like you kind of maybe are, maybe you are that person, and maybe what
I'd,
you've been doing
I'd
up
like to
until
think
now.
so. I don't really want to be working for someone else for the rest of my life that I haven't got any that there's no loyalty. And as soon as something changes, they just kind of dump the workforce.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
that's what I'm finding. So, I mean, I've
Yeah,
kind of registered with AirDNA because I've seen that that's kind of like a good, like, kind of place
yeah.
to start gathering data.
Hmm.
I haven't gone into the pro. I was waiting to talk to you
Yeah,
to see if there was any other platforms and
yeah.
stuff
Because
like
you have to
that.
pay quite a fair bit to go into the pro one, don't
I
you?
think it's like £39 a month or whatever it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
It's not a huge amount, but
It's not a huge
obviously,
amount, but good to have a chat first and make sure it is the right place for you to be doing
yeah,
your research on. I think it's definitely something that we use. It can be beneficial, but that's more for like the service accommodation, Airbnb side of things,
yeah,
which is an option. We do teach that in the course, in the program, sorry, but we also teach you how to find sort of rent to HMOs, which are more like tired old landlords
yeah,
with big HMOs who need someone with a bit more energy to come in, someone to innovate and sort of add value in terms of a cosmetic refurbishment, not so much like adding actual value, but more the surface level stuff, improving the perceived value, and then
yeah,
renting it out for a premium to like your contractors, your nurses, working professionals that are otherwise either in a hotel paying far more than you charge them.
yeah,
And they can't get those properties from estate agents because they're only looking for like a 3 to 6 month tenancy, and a lot of estate agents don't really do that sort of tenancy.
yeah,
So that's where the kind of market is, the opportunity is, the rent to HMO, and then also the perfect rent to rent portfolio would consist of some Airbnbs and some short term smaller units as well. But I like to teach people how to do both.
yeah, of course, yeah.
So do you think you'd be able to have the time like throughout the week? Because most of our students do around 2 hours a day is sort of the minimum that I tell people to do in terms of
But
outreach.
at the moment, I've got plenty of time. So,
Okay, brilliant. Well, then you're rich then.
and then it's kind of like, for me, I've got all the time in the world, but I can't sit in front of a computer and go, how do I do that? And then spend 40 minutes trying to find out how to register to be compliant or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. No, I don't want you to be sitting in front of a computer.
It's all that shit, and then you suddenly get a kind of a knockback, and you're like, oh, like where do I go from here?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, like it's kind of just having that guidance and the
Mm-hmm.
knowledge. I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sure. And you think like, what do you think stopping you from getting to where you want to get to yourself? Is it mainly like having someone to help you out, the guidance, the mentoring? Is
Yeah,
that something you think would be?
I guess it's someone to lean on and go like, kind of right. I've seen this. How do I find a property that is going
Mm-hmm.
to be viable?
Mm-hmm.
Do I get someone to look at it? Because obviously,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to go all in and go right. Okay, I'm going to put 20 grand into this property, and
Mm-hmm.
then you don't kind of like bounce. I'll bounce it off my wife, and she's like, I ain't got a clue. And then I'm just going to go
Right.
for it, and then I've lost 20 grand. Do you know what I mean, or
Yeah.
whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
I
Got
don't
you.
want to lose money. I want to kind of like
Make
I want
money.
to yeah.
You want to turn money into more money. That's the goal, isn't it?
Yeah, and I want to have the best chance.
Yeah, got you. Okay, that makes perfect sense. So everything you've said to me sounds spot on. Like you are the type of person we could definitely help. I know that because I spoke to many people in your position and I've helped them get to their first few rent to rent properties and even beyond that. So I definitely think I could help you. You've got the time, which is the main concern of mine, because a lot of people come to us and sometimes they don't have the time. They got a job. Maybe they're starting their Amazon FBA business, like you mentioned earlier. They're doing too much, and I think having that clear space is a advantage sometimes in terms of the time. If you can put more than 2 hours in a day, then obviously you're going to succeed quicker. And if you know what tasks to do.
At the moment, I can put 40 hours in a week, 40, 50
Well,
hours a
well
week. So
then, well then we could really speed this up. Normally we like to guarantee our result within 6 months because I like people to digest the information, which I'll explain in a minute in terms of what you get for your money. But I like people to digest the course material and understand it. That normally takes, 6 weeks, sometimes even 2 months for people to really get it. Um, and then it's another 2 months of like practicing what you've learned, because you have to give your brain a bit of time to digest the information and then understand it. And then you put it into the practical and actually go out there and start speaking to agents, speaking to landlords and building that sort of network. So that normally takes another couple months. So we like to guarantee people the result within 6 months because that's how long it took me from novice to getting my first deal. And I didn't have a mentor, I didn't have a course to follow. I was just winging it from YouTube videos and basically just driving down to Wales and just trying my luck, and eventually they seemed to take a liking to me, or they thought I was a pest, one of the two. But regardless, they gave me a chance.
both, or both even.
Probably both, and that's what you want to be doing. You want to be on the line of both, because that's how you're going to get somewhere, you know.
You're doing kind of rent to rents and all those kind of things. Got a successful business. Why are you doing this?
Why am I doing coaching?
The tutoring, yeah, yeah, obviously,
Because I enjoy it.
yeah, okay.
Because I enjoy it, and I have a lot of time, like most of the rent to rents that we have are ticking over now. Like I'm in London, they're all in Wales. I've got
Whereabouts are you in London?
Southeast London, so Crystal Palace, next to the football stadium, next to
Is that
Selhurst Park.
is that where you grew up?
Yeah, yeah, I've always been here. Yeah, my whole life. Yeah, I've always lived here. All my family live around here. My mum, my nan.
Yeah.
I actually used to play for Crystal Palace when I was younger. I did my apprenticeship there many moons ago. So yeah, I'm born and raised in South London. So all my properties are in South Wales, and I have a lot of time. I've got a portfolio of buy-to-let properties as well, and I'm quite ambitious. I like to keep pushing. I need to have something to do basically, and those properties are rented out. The income's relatively passive. The rent to rents and the buy-to-lets. I go to the gym most days. I read some books, and I've still got quite a few hours, and I want to still contribute to the world somehow. So this is why I started my education company, and this is why I teach people how to do it as well. It makes me feel good, and it's nice to bring people along the journey with you as well, if you can.
Why South Wales? Just because the property's cheaper and there's a
Yeah,
just
and my dad lives there, right? So
right.
he was always telling me, come down here, it's cheaper to get involved in property for years, and I never did. And I was originally looking around London, around here, in areas like Tooting, places like that, but it was going to cost me around 3 grand for 1 month's rent for like a five-bedroom HMO in Tooting. Um, and obviously 2 months up front, that's 6 grand, and then a couple grand on furniture. You're looking at £8,000 to get started in London. Whereas when I went down to Wales, when I first started 7 years ago, I was getting HMOs for like £1,200 a month, £1,100 a month. So 2 months up front to a landlord, 2,400, and then a
Yeah.
couple grand on furniture. It was like half the price. So I could basically make my money work harder down there. And people are a bit more friendly down there as well. Like in London, there's a lot of resistance. Everyone's so,
Yeah.
tight up, and the cost of living is crippling people in London. There's not much room for negotiation in London. Whereas I found going down to Wales, fresh start, new people, walking into estate agents was a lot less daunting down there. They were a lot more friendly, open to having a conversation. And then once I'm actually sitting in front of them and I can actually have a conversation with them, I found I could get a lot further along by demonstrating I am actually a real genuine person. I'm just trying to start a business. I'm trying to add value to the marketplace, whether that be to them as an estate agent or to a landlord. And I found I could just progress quicker and further by being there, even though it takes me about 3 hours to drive down there. It was definitely worthwhile.
So broadly speaking, like I mean, obviously Wales is cheaper, but
Hmm.
5 grand, some 5 grand
Pretty
investment to get some
standard.
5 to 6 grand
Yeah,
investment to
yeah,
invest.
pretty much pretty standard. I mean, obviously, like I'll teach you as time goes on how to negotiate a rent-free period. So there's ways that you can say to a landlord, for example, if you had viewed a property today, for example, and the landlord took a liking to you and you managed to say, you negotiated with them and they were open to you doing a rent to rent with it, then you could say, okay, in 3 weeks' time, maybe towards the end of February, we'll start paying, or even on the 1st of February, we could start paying. And if you give us a few weeks grace to come in, start getting the place ready, spend a little bit of money, tarting the place up, so to speak, and marketing it. There's a lot of landlords that will be open to that because you're going to offer them a guaranteed long-term rent. So they don't mind giving up a few weeks just to get a longer term tenant that's going to be longer than a year, for example.
And with the HMOs, you have to kind of make sure that their mortgage can cover like rent to rent, don't you? Like kind of because lots of
Yeah, I
mortgages
mean,
don't.
I mean, a lot of the landlords don't even have a mortgage. A lot of their mortgages are paid off,
Right.
especially
Okay.
that sort of landlord you'll be targeting. There are some landlords that we have that do have mortgages, and it's totally down to them. It's their discretion. Some of the mortgage companies will make them pay a fee if they mention it to them.
Yeah.
Some of them don't mention it to them because they just want a guaranteed fixed income. They just want to make sure they're making their money. So it just depends. You do have to kiss a few frogs before you find the right one. There is
Yeah.
a bit of trial and error. You are going to get told no. I'm not going to kid you into thinking that there's not going to be a lot of rejection because there will be. But there are a lot of landlords out there who are looking for a long-term fixed guaranteed income as opposed to working with traditional tenants, especially with the renters' right bill that's coming into play. They haven't got much protection working with normal tenants. They could be left with 6 months without any rent coming in and they can't get the tenant out. Whereas when you're a company, it's normally a 2 month notice period where you can end the contract. So that's more protection for them. And it also gives them that sort of element of passive income, which is kind of what all landlords want, really. They don't really want to be managing the day-to-day runnings of the property. They just want someone to take care of the whole thing. And quite often these guys are like higher net worth individuals and they're not so focused on squeezing every penny out of the asset. They're more concerned with having that time element back in their life. And they're happy to free up a portion of the income to get some of their time back. And they're just looking for the right type of person. They're kind of looking for us the same way we're looking for them. You know,
Yeah.
it's just finding that right person.
Yeah.
Yeah,